The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to The Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you. You're hearing New Erections by The Locust, featuring my guest, Gabe Serbian on drums. The Locust formed in 1994 and soon proved themselves one of the most exciting and influential bands on the fertile San Diego scene. Their rigorous aesthetic, which drew inspiration from metal, punk, and conceptual visual art alike, permeated all aspects of their operation, from the music to their alien-like stage uniforms to the beautifully rendered, unorthodox packaging of their releases. Gabe's frenetic and agile drumming evolved in scope and ambition along with the increasingly complex band. Aside from his work in The Locust, Gabe drums in Head Wound City, whose album A New Wave of Violence was released earlier this year. He's worked with the Italian band Zoo, and when we recorded this conversation, he was at work on a new album as the vocalist of Dead Cross, a band that features Dave Lombardo on drums. And now our conversation with Gabe Serbian.
Yeah, I didn't really know my real dad. It's funny because recently I was thinking about how I didn't really know him that well at all. And so I've been asking my uncle, who I'm really close with, a lot of questions, through getting this information. I found out my real dad was kind of a shitty dude.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of funny that,
Well, you have a kid now, right?
Yes.
How old's your kid?
She'll be 2 in December.
So one kid.
One kid.
And so once you had the kid, is that what kind of sparked this
a little
line
bit
of thought?
Yeah, I don't know. I think some ad popped up on my computer, ancestry.com, and I was just it's kind of weird. I don't really know my anything. So that's kind of...
He just split, or what happened?
I don't really remember. I guess, well...
Is he alive or
no,
not?
He died.
Okay.
I don't really... I was pretty young when they separated, but I don't really know the gist of why they separated. I know he cheated a lot.
Uh-huh.
But I don't. When I asked my uncle if he cheated on my mom, and he said that he didn't think so. And I think that they just pretty much split because they didn't really get along. And my mom is the complete opposite. She's super awesome, and
yes.
Is real concerned. Was always really concerned about if my actions affected someone in a negative way. So I don't know. It's totally opposite from what I've heard my dad was like.
What's your stepdad like?
Well, I'm not really that. They got separated as well. They divorced.
Okay.
Probably when I was 19, and I just kind of stopped talking to that guy as well because he was kind of a shitty dude as well.
So your mom is one of those nice people that is attracted to shitty people.
Yeah, well, my stepdaddy is he's really cool and charming, but there were things about him that just kind of sucked, made him a shitty dude, and sometimes that can outweigh, the good in someone. Now
that you're a father, do you ever think about how are my actions affecting this kid? How can I make sure not to fuck up the same way?
All the time, man. I even started going to therapy.
This is therapy.
Yeah. Well, other than playing music for therapy, I've actually started going to talk to someone about this stuff because I'll notice when I get pissed off or something that sometimes my behavior mirrors what I witnessed from my stepfather.
Yes.
And I'm just I don't want to be that guy. And I noticed that I guess it made an impression on me when I was a kid, when he would get angry at about something, he became a total asshole and like would break shit and stuff. And when I get mad, I'll fucking have this urge to just smash something, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, that's probably a normal like reaction, but I think about it.
Do you smash shit?
No, man, especially not in front of my kid. Like,
Right.
so that stuff became very apparent to me. And yeah, I definitely try to not act a certain way. I don't want her to think that's how a man acts, or
Right,
like
because that sets her clock. Then
Yeah.
then she'll be attracted to like an asshole
So
someday.
I'm trying to like when I get really frustrated or upset in front of her, I've gotten really good at like kind of pushing that all aside. I've also like since she's been born got real into like meditating and stuff like
What
that.
kind of meditation?
You know, I just mindfulness meditation, just like, you know, focusing on my breathing for a long time, and then, you know, after I can do that, where I get into a really nice relaxed state, I can kind of like, you know, issues will come up and I'll like can ponder them, if you will.
I think that it works.
It
I
definitely
do.
works, man. It kind of creates this, because like in the heat of the moment, I have this little buffer of time before I react, where I can
Yes.
kind of, you know, check myself.
Yeah.
It's been pretty amazing. And it's one of those things where I'm just like, what took me so fucking long to discover this, you know? I get
Yeah.
time and place.
Well,
is
were
just-
you raised in any sort of religious tradition?
Not really. Growing up, my stepfather, you know, he got like we started going to church for a while, and I hated it, man. I would you know, I'd have to go to Sunday school and stuff like that, but I got kicked out of Sunday school because I just did not like it. And
Right.
then, you know, waking up early on Sunday morning, it was just always a big job to get my parents, or for my parents to get me up and whatnot. So I just kind of wasn't into it. And eventually my mom was just like, you know what, I don't agree with any of this shit either, so we're not going to do this anymore.
Yes. Okay, got it. Yeah, I was raised in an atheist household,
Okay.
but I was interested in the concept of meditation, but also skeptical.
Sure.
And I interviewed this guy for an episode of this show, Mike Clark, and he's into Buddhist meditation.
Yeah.
And so I tried it with him after I interviewed him.
Oh, wow.
It's a chanting meditation, so
Okay.
it has a kind of musical feel to it.
Right.
And I think that's why lots of musicians are into it.
You know, the way I do it is it's a real personal thing.
Yeah.
And I do it by myself, and I don't know, I just mainly just like, you know, focus on my breathing until I can get into a nice relaxed state, and then I just kind of either continue with that, or I'll let, you know, things come, like ideas come into my head. I'll allow them to, because like I'm when I'm starting, the big part of it is just trying to not have any sort of random thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But after a while, I'll start. You know, I think it's good because I can like, you know, analyze my behavior, or sometimes I have really good ideas for like, you know, gardening or something. You know, like just random shit pops up. Or
Right. I think you can get into a similar state if you're running or doing other things.
Yeah.
It's just like you're letting your mind.
I've been reading about, because like, you know, like the people walking meditation and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That seems kind of cool.
I mean, I look at it as like the best ideas come when you're not trying to force them out. So
Yeah.
if you're just relaxing,
Yeah.
sometimes they come. You know,
Right.
it's like that's why lots of people come up with the best songs when they're in the shower or on the toilet or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
You said that music is a form of meditation for you too.
Yeah.
So how did you get into music? What was your initial exposure when you were a
Well,
kid?
When I was a kid, the first music I remember ever hearing was the Beatles. My mom would play that all the time growing up. I think, you know, and I think for the same reasons I like to play it, because I don't know, it's almost like kid music. You know,
Mhm.
it's like it usually sounds really fun, or there's a lot of really cool shit going on. Later Beatles, you know. So growing up, I was always really into the Beatles, and I had a kindergarten teacher that would bring his guitar in, and my mom was talking to him about getting me a little guitar. So I don't know, it was just my mom was always really like supportive and really wanted me to get into music. So I don't know, it just kind of, I think with her, you know, being so interested in it for me, I just naturally was interested in music.
When did it become your thing?
Well, I started when I was in 4th grade. I played violin for a little bit, and then when I was in 5th grade, I switched to clarinet.
That's exactly what I did.
Really?
Too, yeah. Uh-huh.
I have no idea why I switched to clarinet, but I did. And then for all of my 5th grade year, and then when I went into 6th grade, that was the first time like the band or whatever had percussion.
Yes.
And that I totally wanted to do that. And going back to my stepdad, if it wasn't for that guy, I would have never played drums because he's a drummer. He's a big band drummer. So when I started expressing my interest in drums, you know, he showed me how to set up his drum set and taught me how to play a rock beat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on out, it was all drums all the time. And then like in the middle of my 6th grade year, he talked to my teacher and I switched to drums, and then that was it.
And when did your musical taste kind of diverge from that of your parents?
Well, when I was...
I guess I'm being presumptuous that your parents weren't into, like, grindcore music.
No. Well, okay, when I was, like, you know, in 5th grade, like, I knew there was, like, a heavier music out there, but I just didn't know what it was or where to look. So I would, like, you know, I think I could hear it in Led Zeppelin or, like, you know, Black Sabbath records my parents had. So I would listen to that shit, and I knew there was, like, this rad, like aggressive or just, like, a dark side to music that I was really attracted to. And I had a buddy that lived up the street from me, and he had an older brother. This was when I was in 6th grade, and his older brother was already out of high school, I believe. Or maybe he was in, like, a senior or something. But he was a full-on Hessian. Like, long hair, leather jackets, played guitar in his garage, did speed, smoked weed. But he had all... In his room was just all metal posters. And so, you know, that's when I first heard Metallica and first heard my truly distorted, like, guitar, the shit I was looking for. And I found it, you know. And I think I was, like, in 6th grade.
Yeah. What was the first record that you went out and bought once you entered that phase?
It was Kill 'Em All, and then I went into Anthrax. I loved Anthrax for some reason. And the Anthrax album, Persistence of Time, is still one of my favorite records.
Yeah.
I love that fucking record. But it was around that time when I discovered metal, and then I think one of the things I really liked about metal was the way it was recorded. You could hear everything so clearly.
Yes, a lot of attack.
Yeah, and the drums were just so, like, you know, just so ferocious
and so central to the music.
Yes, and you could hear everything the guy was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I just loved that. I loved the double kick. It just was so exciting to me. You know.
Yeah.
And then another buddy, like, started introducing punk music to me, which I thought was rad for pretty much the exact opposite reasons I liked metal, because it was just, like, really loose, but it was still super aggressive, but it wasn't produced and super clean.
Yes.
And that was more of where I was at that point in my playing drums.
In your development, you could relate to that. You're like, I can do this.
Exactly.
I can't play like Dave Lombardo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can play like that dude because it's sloppy and all over the fucking place. I can totally do that. So I got really into punk. I lived in San Diego. I lived in the shitty little suburb in northern San Diego called Poway.
What was shitty about it?
A lot of rich white people lived there. There was a whole lot of racism. And, you know, I wasn't into sports and that kind of stuff, so I was automatically just kind of, I don't know, and I'm like a smaller dude, and, like, I was just kind of an outcast. It sounds so lame to say this shit, but this little bubble I lived in, this little suburban nightmare, I met a friend of mine. Her older brother was the guy that first introduced me to, like, the scene, a punk scene that was going on in San Diego that I had no idea existed. And I remember he played, it was, Justin Pearson, my, like, musical soulmate. It was his band called Struggle. And I remember when I first heard it, I felt like I found something I'd always been looking for, because it was still punk, but it was still had that, like, intensity as metal. And it was total distorted guitars and really fucking in your face, you know, like. And as soon as I discovered that shit was happening here, it changed everything. for me. And I just kind of, at that point, I pretty much quit going to high school. Probably like 95,
Okay.
94, 95, something like that. And then I started just, I would like leave for school in the morning and leave through my garage. And then I'd go climb in the attic and fall asleep until I heard my mom leave for work. And then I'd just climb down and play my drums all day long.
How long did that last before the school started calling her?
Well, I was really good at intercepting those calls. And I was smart
You're
about
a crafty motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, I was on a mission.
Yeah.
I had to make it work somehow. And I don't know, when you're a kid, you're just like, you're so gung-ho about everything. And I don't know, it's just like, fuck that. I don't want to be doing that. Like,
so did you ever graduate? Or
no,
did you get a GED or anything?
No, I never did any of that shit.
So that actually forced you to make a decision. Like, okay, this is what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah.
I don't have a backup plan, right?
Pretty much. All we wanted to do was play music and tour and travel. That's it. And so that's what we did for a long fucking time, The Locust was already a band, I think, for maybe a year or two before I joined. And I joined because one of my good buddies at that time was Dave Astor, who was the original drummer for Locust. And we started a band together called Cattle Decapitation. And then when we first started that band, I played drums, he played bass, and we had a guy play guitar. And then we put out a 7-inch, and then that guy that played guitar just kind of skipped town, like he had some people after him or some shit. And so Dave and I would jam, and then one day I was just messing around on guitar, and he started playing drums, and we wrote like 5 or 6 songs. And he's just like, why don't we just switch and like you play guitar now and I'll play drums? And I was like, okay. And then after doing that for a while, he's like, you should play second guitar in Locust. And I was like, yeah, man, I totally should. And so I joined, and then I had my first practice. It was Dave on drums, Robert on guitar, and JP on bass. And then the second practice, Joey played keyboards. After maybe playing guitar for about a year or two, Dave wanted to leave, and so I switched to drums. And then it was that lineup until we kind of stopped playing.
My perception of Locust at the time is that you guys were pretty big. Did you have to work a bunch of other jobs on the side? What were you doing?
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, back in the early days, Locust toured quite extensively, so it was really hard to have a consistent job when I would get home from those tours. But none of that shit really mattered to me. It was just like, I didn't really give a shit if I couldn't pay my rent, because I knew in like a few more months I'd be back on tour. So I'd just couch surf or whatever, or steal food, like whatever it took just to maintain that lifestyle.
I mean, you guys were kind of provocateurs.
There was this like buzz or there was this like rumor about that we were like, like we would provoke shit, but in reality, we just wouldn't take shit from anyone. So when everyone would come to our shows just assuming they could, like, that was the thing you do, you fuck with these guys. So a lot of it was just like, defending ourselves. It's not like we were instigating a lot of this shit. I remember once, I was just thinking about this the other day. We were playing in Bellingham, Washington, and before the show, these 2 guys like started fucking with JP. I think they spit in his face, and there were some punches thrown. And we played the show that night, or I don't know how it diffused. I think what happened, actually, me and Dave, and we turned the corner, and kind of suddenly JP had like some other backup, so these guys just went away. And then that night, where we played the show, and then that night we stayed at our friend's house. And when we woke up and we went to our van was spray painted all over it, spray painted on the trailer, like, go back to San Diego, like, fuck the Locust and all this shit like that. And this guy's house that we stayed at, I guess his girlfriend or whatever knew those guys, and so we automatically knew it was those guys that did it, and she knew where they lived. So, well, take us to their house, And so she showed us where they lived, and we all got out of the van, and you
burned it down.
We were ready to. We just stormed the house. Like, I remember Dave found a 2x4 and picked it up. I grabbed a brick. And we kicked the door open, and those dudes weren't home. They were like at work or some shit. So
They were at church.
We fucking trashed their house. Like,
wow.
Yeah, fucking destroyed it, And I guess that was some sort of, like.
Did they call the cops on you?
No, man, we never heard from them. Like,
I hope it was the right house.
It was the right house. But I remember it's so funny because like I found a bag of weed, and so I was just ripping on their bong, and Dave was like, there was a drum set.
Did you find some chips too? That's what I've been looking for.
Chips.
After I smoked the weed.
Oh no.
Pizza.
I took their bag of weed. I think we like spray painted like "fuck the Locust" on their wall. Like Dave slashed the drum heads. Like we just kind of trashed their place. And I remember we felt kind of shitty about it, but at the same time we're like, fuck those guys though, man. Like they brought this onto themselves. I would never do anything like that these days, but that that's kind of an answer to your question, I think.
Do you feel like as the band evolved you were always creatively satisfied, or were you looking to try other things?
Well, I think that trying to be satisfied is what led the band to evolve,
right?
Because we
did it feel like with each new record you felt a sense of accomplishment, or were you like, fuck, we didn't get it on this one?
We always felt a sense of accomplishment at the end of each record, because I think, we started, it was just all fast, super short songs. And then when I switched to drums, that changed everything up a bit too. And songs started getting a little longer, maybe not so fast, maybe a lot weirder.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee. Handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com.
Tell me about the band Headwound City.
It consists of me on drums. My buddy Justin Pearson plays bass. My buddy Cody Vadalato plays guitar. My friend Nick Zinner plays guitar, and then my other friend Jordan Bliley sings.
What aspect of your creative personality gets to come out when you're doing Headwound City?
Well, I get to play the way the way I play that comes naturally to me. But it's more, I don't know, it's kind of like I kind of get to hold back instead of just going like completely ape shit. I get to hold back a bit. And then, I don't know, be calculated with my ape shittedness.
Calculated ape shittery.
Yeah, thank you. It's one of those projects that I'm doing that I play whatever feels natural. I don't, really have to compromise my beats, because everything thus far I've done works and complements the music,
Let's talk about Dead Cross.
Okay,
this is a new band
yes.
that you formed with the great Dave Lombardo on drums.
Yes.
And Dave is probably one of your all-time heroes.
Yes, yeah. It's totally crazy.
How did it come about?
Well, first let me start by saying the reason I started playing drums when I was in the 6th grade was because I heard Slayer. And when I first heard Slayer, I decided that I wanted to stop playing clarinet and play the drums. And so he kind of set me on a new path, kind of led me, I changed my life in a way. And then, I don't know.
You can remember the moment that you heard it for the first time.
Yes. It was the first song, War Ensemble. It just blew my mind. And then there's that crazy drum fill in the middle. It's like this drum solo fill in the middle of the song. It was just like, holy shit, I want to play drums.
What did it represent to you?
Just totally brutal. I never heard anything so fast and just so aggressive, and I don't know. And the other thing, the way his drums sound on all those recordings, they sound like real drums. They don't sound like...
They're not triggered.
Yeah, it sounded real. The drums sounded real versus this kind of super processed sound. And to me, that sounded, just super raw and awesome. But yeah, I don't know. So I don't know when was it? In December, I got a phone call from Justin. He was working on some weird project with Ross Robinson, and Dave Lombardo was playing drums on it. And
Ross Robinson is a producer who's worked with Dave in the past, and he's worked with lots of other metal bands.
Well, I met him because he did the Headwind City record that's about to come out. And he was supposed to record Dave Lombardo's band called Film, but they broke up like right before they were supposed to go to the studio. So Ross asked Dave if he'd do him a favor and come and play drums on this like project that he was working on, and had JP come play, and then had JP ask if his friend Mike could play guitar, and then they just decided, you know, they would jam and decided to start a band. And then I got a phone call asking if I'd want to sing, and I was like, yeah, totally. You know, my friend asked me like, if you told 16-year-old Gabe that you were going to be playing in a drum with Dave Lombardo, what would you have said? And I'm just like, I just said you're a fucking liar. But then I was like, but actually, young Gabe was quite a dreamer, so he probably would be, oh yeah, of course I am.
How has having a kid changed your life?
Well, I don't feel as reckless anymore. Before I had my kid, I've been riding motorcycles for like 10 years, and now I'm just a little more weary of getting on my bike because too many close calls. I don't know, just like I'm more concerned like with my health and shit. Like I eat better now and I work out and stuff because I want to live a longer period. You know, I want to be there for my kid. Like, I don't know, I just think I've become a bit more responsible. It's not like, you know, I'm not as selfish about my time. Like, you know, it's not all about me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I think growing up, if I had this kid in my 20s, I don't know what that would have done. I feel like, I don't know, everything has worked. You know, everything just has fallen into place the way it should. I think I'm like 38 now. You know, I had this kid after I've gotten a lot of shit out of my system.
A lot.
Yeah. But I don't know, it's weird because I really, really miss the freedom of playing, you know, going on the road or just doing whatever. But I also have to remind myself that this is just a moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, that lifestyle or being able to go out on the road and playing like I used to play it, like that'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
But right now it's all about, like, you know, my little kid.
Do you have any non-musical goals moving forward?
You know, I probably should, but it's still,
Are you not much of a planner?
You know, I just tested for ADHD.
Uh-huh.
And I think that I may have some of that shit going on because it's hard for me to plan stuff. Like I have started taking notes and making lists of shit that I need to do in the day because I'll usually start like multiple projects at once and nothing gets finished.
Right.
I don't know. I think I'm on a good path right now, but we'll see how it works out.
Gabe Serbian, thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.